Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us with us today on Food for Thought. My name is Sunil Chandy. I am the rector and priest here at Christ Episcopal Church. And again, thank you for being with us. And as you all know, this is a program that we do to help us. It's a program that we engage in at Christ Church as a ministry to the world, in which we connect with one another. And so we hope that you are connecting with us and are finding deep wisdom from the people that come on to our show here and talk to us day in and day out over the week. And I hope that you will continue to have a hopeful and joyful attitude as you connect with this program. So if you are here, please say hello. Tell us that you're watching. Tell us that you're here, and we'd love to say hello to you. I know that there are at least 3-4 people on this one platform. I know that there are probably other people who watch the show at different times of the day. But if you are here, say hello. Well, this is good. So, and when you can, just say it when you can, when you're ready to. It seems like usually people say namaste or something already, but not yet. So anyway, today we have a wonderful guest who is a guest of our, there it is, Ben. Namaste. Thank you. I can't begin without something like that, Today we have our guest, our usual continuing, guest who is a part of this show is Sharon Younkin, and Sharon is bringing another wonderful friend who is doing some really amazing work and timely work for our community and in the company that she works with. And so I would like to give her a little bio of Deirdre Murphy, who Sharon will introduce to us. Has a BA in elementary education and psychology from the University of Rhode Island. She has an MSW from San Francisco State University. She has a current practice she's a psychotherapist and a licensed independent clinical social worker at RICBT. She is passionate about using mindfulness, CBT, and DBT and working with children, teens, families, and couples. She also specializes in substance abuse treatment and prevention. Her warm and friendly and supporting demeanor helps people feel comfortable and heard, and she sees therapy as an opportunity to develop tools to remove blocks that get in our way of creating more happiness and success in our lives. Learning to breathe and cut ourselves some slack is a great step towards remembering our strengths and resiliency. I think that's well said, and I'm looking forward to meeting with her, with all of you. And of course, there is Rosina, Gabrielle, who's watching. Rosina, thank you, and also Mary Boyer Gintic, thank you for watching as well. And if you do watch this show, please, it's an important subject as we deal with as kids, as we help our kids deal with the COVID-19 situation. And they're going through a multitude of emotions, I would imagine, along with many different frustrations through this particular challenge. And so we're lucky to have both Sharon and Deirdre with us today. And so, Ben, please bring Sharon on first. Hi, Sharon.
Namaste.
Namaste. It's so good to see you. It's always great to see you,
Shoot. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My phone going off in the middle of the program.
It's all right. It's okay. It's live, right?
And that's live. There you go. So you know for sure this is live.
And I'm glad you said, "Oh shoot," instead of something else.
Thank you for pointing that out. Wow, you're right. I could have really stepped in it, but I did not.
You did.
I did not. It must be because I played pickleball this morning. My last game of pickleball before we head back north. So I'm ready. I'm ready for some great conversation. So I'll tell you why I wanted to have Deirdre on, because when I was researching the American Psychological Association website, I don't know, maybe about a month ago, I saw that the latest survey conducted, where they hired out the Harris Poll to conduct their survey, the last one conducted, which was at the end of February, I noticed the stats, and they did not surprise me at all because I've been seeing this with my own folks, but that 48% of parents said that the stress in their life had increased, definitely since before the pandemic, and that's very consistent with what I see. But also that our Generation Z would be the folks who are ages 6 to 24. 46% were most likely to say that their mental health has worsened. They were the highest out of all our generations. They had the highest number to say that they were struggling with mental health, or that mental health had worsened. The second generation that had the highest level would be the 41 to 56-year-olds, or the Generation X, which in my mind would be the parents of the Generation Z. Yeah. So our families have really been really struggling. We also know that they've been struggling in terms of self-care and how to cope in some instances. So I wanted to have Deirdre on because, first of all, I think that we would be remiss if we did not have someone on the program who works primarily with teens and young adults and families. And so she runs two groups in our practice, one for teens, one for young adults. She really has her hand, she has her hand on the pulse, her thumb on the pulse of what's going on. And she has such a wonderful, I think, reassuring style with this generation that really is struggling. So I thought she could really offer some wonderful insight, and also I just thought we could give her some love too, because you can imagine the strain that it must be I know just for myself, but if in particular, if you're working with the people who are even the most stressed during this time. So I think for both reasons, it would be great to have a conversation with her about what's been going on. So
I'm looking forward to touching base with her. So should we bring her on now?
You can see how wonderful she is for yourselves.
Hi, Deirdre. Welcome. I've heard, and we met each other in the green room a couple of minutes ago, and I think you've got yourself muted right now. That's okay.
Dang it.
That's okay. And of course, Sharon speaks so highly of you, and it's really wonderful to have you on our show. And let me give you a little background about us. We initially started this to connect with our own parishioners in Westerly, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. In the Stonington area, but we found that we have a reach that extends way beyond that. And we've got people all over the country watching us, and also, people outside of the country too. But all of us are struggling with this COVID-19 situation, and especially, I love today because we're talking about a special subset of our entire population, and that is young people between the ages of 6 and 24, and I know that it's a difficult age to work with in general, but they have, in particular, these particular issues, especially around COVID-19. I was just reading an article recently, and from the Wall Street Journal, and it said that there were that are especially challenging: the social isolation during the lockdown, family stress, schools closures, the breakdown of routines, anxiety about the virus, the death of loved ones, their grandparents and parents, and how that adds to their anxieties. And so I know that frozen a little bit. Are we frozen? Yeah. The teenage years are especially tough, but this makes it even more. So how are you doing, Deirdre, with all of this?
Honestly, I'm good. I'm burnt, to be totally honest, but I think I'm guessing that a lot of clinicians and psychiatrists might be feeling that same way, and obviously teens and young adults. I I think, everybody's just burnt and ready for people keep saying go back to normal. But yeah, it's been a very long year. I will say on a positive end, that because the weather's getting nicer, it just feels like, at least for me, like this huge relief of like, okay, the sun's out, the winter is, I'm pretty sure it's probably not going to snow anymore. No guarantees, but I feel like, okay, we've just gotten through a lot, and we can get outside and breathe some fresh air again.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's been one of the advantages of me being in Florida, is that I've been able to pretty much keep staying outside. It does make a difference.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm trying to get everybody outside. Go outside. Go outside.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. I mean, like today is a little bit overcast right now, and and it affects our mood. But one of the things I love about our region in the country is that when it gets to be the spring and summer, it becomes one of the most beautiful areas in the country. And I've lived all over the U.S. and mostly in New Jersey, but I am just so surprised at the ocean, being able to see the ocean, the rivers, and the settings that we have here. And so it's just I think it's important that as kids who are dealing with this stuff, how do we use the resources that we have? How do we use the natural resources to help them through this time?
Well, just from like reiterating what you read in that article, the lack of routines and structure, I think that's the biggest thing that I've been trying to support. I mostly work with, say, like 13 and up. So I can't really address the elementary age very much and how they are experiencing the pandemic, but really trying to encourage people to create any kind of routine or structure, but to get out of their bedroom, basically, and get outside. I literally remember, this was last spring when a girl was really struggling, couldn't get out of bed. And props to her for her willingness, but I made her, so one pro of COVID is I was like, take your phone and we're going outside. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, get out of bed, bring me outside. I want to see your front yard. And made her open the door, and I was like, okay, let me see your driveway, and flip the screen. Let me see, she lived in this like beautiful yard. I'm like, let me see that stone wall. Another cool thing about living in Rhode Island. And she went from talk about shifting her mood. I was like, describe to me, like, what you see and what's in front of you and what do you smell? And, and instantly she was like, thank you. Like, I feel a little bit better. So stuff like that is just trying to get people to get outside, walk around, exercise. But kids are just stuck in their bedroom all day long, whether it's with school. A lot of kids are either hybrid or back in school. But yeah, it's a huge help to decrease anxiety and depression, getting a little bit more active.
Yeah. I love the fact that what even that little exercise that you just reminded me of mindfulness. When you helped her to, like one of the things that Sharon has helped us to learn is that anxiety is always fear about the future and worrying about the future, and sometimes depression is worrying about what has happened in our past, and being in place, actually thinking about either in the future or in the past rather than staying in the moment. And in that moment, when you told her that the teenager to go outside and just tell me what you see right now, the beauty around you right now, reframed her focus, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
You know what it reminds me of too? Because I read a post recently. Supposedly it was a letter that was written by a superintendent of, I'm not sure what state it was in, but was on Facebook. And sometimes I think the adults, we are pushing our children sometimes not to be mindful in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, well, we can't, and I'd be curious what Deirdre has to say about this, but like developmentally, but they can't fall behind. They've got to keep up with their test scores. They've got to, it's like we're in this super rush to get to where, I mean, to pass a certain arbitrary test. I'm not always so, it's not always so clear to me. Like the superintendent in this case was making the case that let's remember their psychological well-being. Let's help them make meaning from this experience. Let's help them process this and what they learned and how they grew, and like really take time for the psychological piece of this instead of all this pressure. Can't fall behind with, you know, the numbers that, and I don't know. I'd be curious what you think about that, Deirdre, too. It seems like there's more discussion about those pieces than kind of helping kids to make sense of what they've been through.
You just opened a huge can of worms, so I don't know how sure you want me to.
Oh, well, yeah. I'd be curious, and yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't know, I didn't realize it did, but maybe I need to be more informed. Yeah.
No, I get. You just bring up a really, in my opinion, a huge point where. So I'm just trying to, you know, how can I be brief about it? But you know, so. You know, yeah, there's a ton of pressure in school, and you know, there was an article earlier. I thought you said Wall Street Journal, but there was one in Washington Post, I think, in February, and it was talking about, you know, that you know, it said something about like the pressure cooker for academics in school is still there, despite school either being hybrid or online. However, kids now, they don't have the opportunities to really meet with teachers and talk to them and get assistance. And I don't have actually any teacher's perspective. So this is I'm just hearing it from, say, teen or college students, one side of the story. But, you know, the pressure with SATs and grades and keeping, but not having an opportunity to socialize in school and get the school experience, or really get like tutoring or help. So the stress of maintaining those types of grades, you know, like it's a lot. So then, yeah, people's mental health is declining. So I don't know, it's a huge topic. So I could go on and on, and you know, I don't want to over talk.
Yeah. Well, no, but Deirdre, I think, you know, it's interesting. I'll tell you the honest truth. I have been guilty of doing that to my kids. You know, you know, you kind of almost hope that you give a. You know, I've always been taught that you give high expectations, and then if they, you know, and you create a kind of pressure cooker type of situation, so that they could learn how to deal with pressure. But I realized, you know, especially during now in this situation, that even though that was unhealthy before COVID, it's even more unhealthy right now, because there's so many different stresses that I have never come across, that are so different, that my kids are experiencing now, and part of what I've learned through our conversations with Sharon is just to be kind, to be kind with not only you know, with everyone who's dealing with this challenge, but also myself, but especially my kids now, because it's a different world.
Yeah.
You know? I
mean, so think about it, like, so before COVID, the expectations, and it's great for parents to have high expectations, but I listen to it all day long in counseling teens, the pressure to get great grades and across the board, you know, so you have to be great in math and science and English and language, and you have to volunteer, and you have to be a star athlete, and you have to be, you know, like the pressure, you know, to get into a good college, because if you don't get into a good college, just literally from their mouths, like, you're going to disappoint your parents. And if you don't get into a good school, then you're not going to be successful. And if you're not successful, you're going to be homeless. And it sounds dramatic, but like it is. But
Deirdre, I actually said that to my kids. So I'm so sorry. I actually said, you're going to be homeless. If I'm not here, who's going to support you, right?
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Sometimes it's hard. The parents get caught up in the frenzy too.
Yeah.
Right?
No, absolutely. I love that point, because it's not like a blame game, but more of, it's just I feel bad for everyone. Like the pressure on parents, to push your kids and to have high expectations and do really well. But I think that the drawback is kids take that like literally, and they're not, so they're in this pressure cooker, and it becomes like an all or nothing thing where if they're not perfect, then they're a failure.
Yeah.
And I know all this, Sharon.
Yeah.
But so the work we're trying to do is like really help them, or even parents, that our best is always changing, and I steal that from the guy Don Miguel, that wrote 4 Agreements. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but it's like my Bible. I love this guy, this man. But his suggestion is that our best is always changing. And so with COVID, you want kids to get really, really good grades, and they have to study for SATs, and they have to be this well-rounded student to get into a good school. But so much has been robbed from them that, they don't have the normal stress releases. They don't have a social outlet. They're stuck in the room all day. They don't have the help from, and teachers can't probably help the way that they wanted to. The online school, this is just from teens' perspective, is boring. It's just busy work. So we can't expect what we were expecting before. Like, they're miserable and there's no motivation, and it's hard to focus and stay involved and have a sense of purpose, but we're expecting them to do as well as they were doing before. And so it's like
yeah.
So it's tough, so my hope is, so I'll just say that.
Totally. And, I think, Deirdre, we would both agree that with something like the growth mindset, we don't want to teach our kids to think in an all or nothing way. We want them to realize that, number one, there's not just only one path.
Yeah.
There's what you plan, and then there's life. Right. And how many of us have had to like change all the time and adjust because things didn't go the way we thought? I mean, you try to have a plan, and you also are prepared to pivot when you need to, and to problem solve, and to fail fast and fail forward. And I think when we, like your example, which I know you were saying, but it's not extreme. That's how kids think. Like, if I don't get these grades and get into this college, and then I'm going to be, it's all or nothing, homeless. And after having gone through the whole process with my own daughter, I do believe kids get accepted to where they're supposed to go. And there are lots of schools out there that could be a potential really good fit for people. And it's not just like one school makes or breaks someone, or there's so many different paths that they can go on.
Right.
To have a good life.
2 things I wanted to just, I love this conversation, because the black and white thinking, the
all or nothing.
The all and nothing thinking. That's one of the things I experience with my kids sometimes. When I say something, I kind of say, okay, you got to study hard, but still maintain a social life. And then they're saying, well, how could you do that? You tell me one thing, and then you're moving the goalposts a little bit, Dad. That type of thing. And it's interesting, because I've been noticing that in the conversation, the nuances. And my kids they're bright kids, right? But they also get into this. So maybe is it a teenage thing? Is it something that and maybe I couldn't understand that before, but it's interesting to me.
Well, I love that you just recognize that, because I will you know, that you say one thing and then moving the goalpost. I literally just had a teen say that to me last week, you know, like, how my, you know, parents contradicting themselves, and, you know, everyone's just trying to do their best. But to piggyback on what Sharon's saying, if using language of like, hey, I want you to work hard, and sometimes we need to pivot. I love that word. And take breaks, and yeah, spend time with your friends. You know, like, our grades aren't everything. You know, I mean, we need to practice, in my opinion, more wholeness of, yes, working really hard in school, but also, are you going to be an adult that knows how to ask for help, have a self-care practice, you know, connect socially with people in your community, you know, follow things that are important to you, a sense of purpose. But like, teens sometimes are just, you know, all or nothing creates this perfectionism where they're like, if I don't do really well, then I'm disappointing my parents and I'm a failure and not lovable. And I know that's not what parents want.
No,
it's not, you know, your intent, but you know, yeah. So having that conversation of, yeah, I want you to do well, but at a certain point, like, you can't get, it's not that you can't, but practicing more balance rather than life is just about getting straight A's.
Oh, I so love what you're saying, Deirdre. You know, both myself and my ex-husband, we were that like type A perfectionist child that, you know, I don't know, I studied like 6 hours a day. I got into Swarthmore College. Like, it was all like, all what you're saying. It was all about my resume. It was all about my grades. It was all about getting into the school. I had all these scholarships. I had all of this. And I realized when I was like 17, like, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Here I had achieved like the pinnacle at 17. And I was like, this is not what completes me inside. This is not what makes me feel like a whole person. So we really try to raise our daughter with that whole idea of, yes, have high expectations, be curious, love learning, like work hard and have balance. And, you know, there are lots of schools, and you know what I mean? Like the and that you're talking about, because you do miss like people. The balance is so important. I just really, really love what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is, and it's timely. And it's so important. The book that you recommended, that you said, Don, is that Don Miguel Ruiz?
Yes.
Ruiz.
Yeah, I forgot that piece of his last name.
And what was the name of the book again?
The 4 Agreements.
The 4 Agreements. Okay.
Yeah. I think you'll love it.
Okay. All right. That's really super.
Yeah.
Deirdre, you know, you're doing such important work. You are doing such and I'm sure it feels lonely and it feels hard, but it's meaningful, good work. And even in this 20-minute conversation, you've given me insight, and I hope that you know that your work has probably touched many people's lives and will continue to make the world a better place. So please feel encouraged in doing your work.
You're gonna make me cry. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. And thank you, Sharon, for bringing Deirdre on board here with us.
I always say that, you know, I try to give props to people in our field because, you know, we work pretty hard, and I wish I could say it was always. I just say I think we have a long way to go with mental health and the value and the importance of it. But I do definitely, I mean, the people who work with our children and our families, they are very special, and they need to hear that.
I do want to make one last point, and that you know, for our viewers, you know, I'll tell you, I never believed it really. I never really, you know, and when I was growing up, had an opportunity to talk to a therapist or to talk to somebody on an ongoing basis. But you know, I encourage it with my kids and myself. I do it weekly now with my own therapist, and my kids do it, and there has been a real wonderful difference in our lives. And so if anyone is even just thinking about it. There are people like Sharon and Deirdre out in the world, and they could help us to find perspective and new ways of looking. And I think this is the work of God, and I hope that people get encouraged to do so.
Yeah, I love that perspective point, because I think with things like a pandemic, we can lose perspective easily. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what Deirdre brought today. It was a lot of really healthy perspective.
Well, thank you both for being with us. God bless you. All right.
Great to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. Really wonderful, isn't it? I think sorry, folks, I just went off of the screen for a second, but I love it when Sharon brings on guests, and also when Sharon comes on. It's just she, along with all the wonderful guests that we have, just continue to give us new insights every day, especially me. I know that they do the same for you all as well, and we give. We're grateful to God for people like Deirdre and her work as well. But right now, let us end our time with our prayer. And this is a prayer adapted from one written by Bishop Thomas Brown. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, who traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness, at your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Be present with those in authority who are making hard decisions. Support the medical professionals, emergency responders, counselors, and our caregivers. We ask this all in your name, Jesus. Amen. Join with me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, go in peace to love and serve God. Spread the light of Christ to the world around, the light of hope and joy and peace to the world around you. The world needs it right now.
Thanks for watching. Did you know that you can join Christ Church from anywhere in the world? If you're feeling connected to what we're doing, email us today at communicate@christchurchwesterly.org.